What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bluegrass State of Mind, the show where three college roommates talk life, sports, and all the ridiculous things that happen in an apartment we like to refer to as Room 302. We're bringing you stories, hot takes, and the kind of late-night debates that probably should have stayed in the group chat.
So grab your headphones, sit back, and get ready for a wild ride through our past college life, sports, and everything in between. Let's get into it. This is Bluegrass State of Mind.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is Bluegrass State of Mind. Boys, tonight's going to be a good one. We're going to start off tonight with the recap of the UK Bama game, but hold tight because we've got some fun debates coming your way. And also, Mason, why don't you kind of scoot in real quick for the viewers who are actually watching it?
Here,
Man,
hold on.
you got some hats, some good merchandise coming, it seems like. And we'll get to that at the very end. We'll get to that at the very end tonight.
All of them here.
All right, guys. So the Cats, they went to Tuscaloosa this weekend, and a pretty good fight. But they came up short, 83-96. And I just want to give it over to Colton first, and because I'm there's not been an episode yet that I've been really excited to talk about the recap just because of just everything that went on. But go ahead, Colton. What you got?
Yeah. It's a tough game to really analyze. I think it's, I was listening to Kentucky Sports Radio. They were talking about how it was essentially a free game for us, right? One of those games that wasn't going to hurt our seeding. You weren't expected to win. We went in as double-digit underdogs again. You went down many starters against the top 5 team that's coming off back-to-back losses. They're hosting. I mean, everything was against you. And truthfully, in games like that, the only thing I want to see is, one, is there coaching adjustments to the lineup that we are going to put out there? Like, are we going to play to our strengths of what we do have? You don't, and then another one is you just don't want to go into those type of games and lose any type of confidence, right? You don't want to go get killed, feel like, oh man, we don't have anything going without these guys. Yeah. And truthfully, I think we accomplished what we needed to accomplish, right? We put in a good fight. I think we come out and hit Bama in the mouth, and they weren't ready for it from what we had. Yeah. I saw some maturity games from people like Travis Perry. I like that Brea kind of stepped up because he had kind of disappeared in a few of the bigger games. Maury Williams to stay consistent. He did have some turnovers there. He started to get a little loose with the ball, but at the same time, when you're having your 7-footer be the guard, like one of your backup guards, I mean, you got to expect stuff like that to happen. I mean, there are things that we could have done better. I think Oway definitely foul trouble hurt him. The ref situation, I'll let Dylan get into that because I know they were more, heated over the ref situation. But obviously, I think Oway, he kind of laid an egg. The fouls didn't help. There's some things like that. But overall, I wasn't expecting a lot out of the game. I was happy to see some of the fight. But as we said again, as we've said on the last few episodes, Wednesday's night's game becomes a big game again. Right, you're at Oklahoma, a team that you should beat. And if you play like you did against Alabama, you probably will beat. Right? I mean, you played a pretty good game. If you play like you did at least 75% of that game, you should be able to go in and beat Oklahoma on Wednesday night.
Yeah, Oklahoma's coming off a big win too.
Yep, right, they had a good win.
Right, they did. But you got to come back home to Auburn after that, and you still got to go to Missouri. So this is one of the ones Wednesday night you need to get. I hope that they gain some confidence out of the Alabama game. But I was happy with it. It's one of those games you can't really analyze and be critical of. But they showed fight, and that's what I was excited about.
I think you made a good point there, and I like what you said. Before I send it over to you, Mason, I'm going to just talk a little bit about some stuff. But you said it was a free game, and, it was a free game. Bama was a must-win for them. Can't lose it at home. With us being down 3 starters, they just come off back-to-back losses, which hadn't happened all year long for them. And then also just something else that just gets on my nerves. I don't know if y'all had seen, but they had the whiteout game. And then on the whiteout game, it said blue blood and marked out and put new blood. And then I looked and then I read some more articles and it was saying how, they didn't even have this last week for the number 1 team in the nation. And that just gets on my nerves because, they want to say
We're Kentucky.
I know you want to say we're not existent no more, but we are, and we always will be. And that's for another time. And we can debate that for another time. But that just, I'm just like, why, if you're going to do that to us, why wouldn't you want to do that for the number one team, especially your in-state rival? I mean, like, what in the world? But I've got some stuff that I also want to get into. Mason, kind of go ahead though and feed off what Coden said.
Yeah, like he said, I don't think any of us are upset about this. We didn't have high expectations coming into this game, with kind of the cards we've been dealt with injuries and things. I think we were all happy though that our guys, they came ready to play. We jumped out on them quick in a tough environment. I thought you talked about Travis Perry a little bit. I thought he played for being in a hostile environment. Going up against Mark Sears. I know Mark Sears had 30. I think we kind of all expected that with Travis Perry trying to guard him the whole game. That's tough. But I don't think he ever looked scared. He didn't look timid. He had a couple good drives, using his body, getting in there, finishing. I think that's good for his confidence going forward. Good for us as a fan base to look forward to for the next several years of him. He's shown some flashes this year, so I thought that was good to see. Like I said, though, the team, they came out ready to play. I thought they played hard the whole game. We were pretty much in it up until, the last 4 or 5 minutes. And Colton talked a little bit about the refs. I'm not one to blame refs, but they definitely had some influence on this game. I saw a clip posted, Travis Perry gets his leg kicked when he shoots a three and they don't call a foul, and then they come down and Mark Sears doesn't even get touched and they call a foul. So like we said, it was a free game. We came in, we played hard, we gave it our best effort. We were in it right up until the end, and we possibly had a chance to win it. I think the refs limited some of our runs here and there with some calls. A little bit about rotations, it's hard right now. We've talked about it. All of our starters played almost 30 minutes. I don't know how much more. Mari Williams played 27 minutes. I'm looking at the box score right now. I don't know how much more he can play with all he's doing for us right now. I know people are on Twitter talking about he needs to be playing 35 minutes a game. He's got to be gassed. He's touching the ball every single possession. He's rebounding for us every single possession. 27 to 32 minutes, I think, is probably about all he can play, given how much he's doing for us. Kobe Brea played 35 minutes. It's just tough right now with the injuries we have. These guys are going to have to play some spot minutes here and there, and I know sometimes it may seem like it comes at the wrong times after we're going on a big run, but that's just part of the game. We have to get people in there to give these other guys breathers. Like, Otego away, he fouled out. He only played 22. Kobe Brea had 35. Andrew Carr played 30. Travis Perry played 28. And Amari played 27. So, all of our starters right there almost played 30 minutes. And that high pace, of a game, that's a lot of minutes, getting up and down the court as many times as they did that game. So I think we will see him kind of tighten those, rotations a little bit going forward. But right now, I think he's just trying to save legs and maybe prevent some injuries, going forward too, as low as we are right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't really know where I want to start, but I guess I'll start with one thing that I think is just key. I know that we need Lamont Butler, but I truly think that Andrew Card, and I sent y'all this, is the key for us if we're going to make a deep run. And the reason why is because he's just a mismatch down low at that 4 position, because he has such length with his wingspan, and he knows how to use his body. He's one of those just fundamental guys. And he came out, and you've seen flashes of the old Andrew Card now.
And made some outside shots.
Yeah, and made some shots. Would I love for him to be able to play more? Yes. But here's what I'll say. I don't think he can yet. Because if you all would see, whenever he would come out, immediately, they would put that heating pack on his back. And it's not that he can't play those minutes or doesn't want to play, excuse me. It's just I don't think he can't. But I was so happy to see the old Andrew Carr that we saw glimpses of at the very beginning of the season before he kind of had his back hurt. Now, on this show so far, I think we have done a great job of not talking about the refs. I don't think we've talked about the refs or even brought up the refs one time in our game recaps. And that's because really there's not been, that's just not who we are. We don't really want to blame. But I will say this. I was wanting to throw my phone at the TV because that was just terrible calls over and over and over. And it was anytime I felt like we were getting aggressive with them, which is what I loved. I loved seeing our guys being aggressive. But anytime we got aggressive with them, they would call a touchy foul. And then they would go down and they would do the exact same thing and it wouldn't be a foul. And then that leads me to my next point. Then I'll hand it over to y'all because I'm but Mark Sears, okay? This is what I think of Mark Sears. Is he a great basketball player? Absolutely. But let me tell you something about Mark Sears. And if he's listening, good. Mark Sears is one of those, what I like to call fake tough players. And let me tell you why he's a fake tough player. He saw that we had Travis Perry, a freshman 6-foot guard. Okay. He saw that we had Colin Chandler, who hasn't played much as running guard. He saw Kobe Brea, who doesn't play much of the point, having to run some of the point. And he was wanting to be that fake tough guy who was going to get into him, and he can't play a lick of defense. I don't care what the commentators said. He was putting both hands on every single one of our guys and trying to play what I call fake tough. And let me tell you, if we had Lamont Butler or any other guards in the SEC start, they would cook that man. And let me tell you, it just makes me so aggravated because he was all up in them, and they wasn't calling a single thing. And the reason why is because I've been there. I wasn't a great defensive player, and we see that out of bad defensive players. If you can't guard somebody, you try to check them with your hands, and he was doing it all night long, and he wasn't getting fouls called. But then he would go on one end, and then he would do his little floppity flop, and he would get a foul because he's so little that they just think, oh, he's just going to fall down. Like towards the end of the half, the man just fell down on Colin Chandler's foot, and they called a foul. And it blows my mind on, and I guess that's what you get though when you're one of the elite players in the SEC, just like in the NBA, you get the calls. But it was just really aggravating to see.
How many free throws he shot? 11.
Was it 12? Yeah. 11, yeah. And then another thing, and I like I said, I could go on and on about this. The referee walking down and staring Mark Pope. Come on now, what in the world was that? Yeah. I mean, if I was
stopping
Mark
the
Pope,
game,
I know. If I was Mark Pope, I'm serious. I would have been thrown out with 4 minutes left, and then I would have sent a message. And that was another thing, Colt, me and you had talked about. We want to see a little bit more fire from Pope. Mm-hmm. Go ahead on that. I wanted to say, I was really wanting him to just get, which you can't take your team out of the game. But this is one of those games, like you said, I don't think we probably was going to win down the stretch with all the momentum they had. So go ahead and send a message to your guys.
Yeah, I agree. I love the positivity that Pope has and the kind of guy he is, and I think the players really respond to that. But at the same time, I think all this positivity, Kentucky passion, all this stuff, like it's great. And then,
it's
but you also
for a little while, but
for
now
a little
it's
while,
time
but
to turn
we want to see like the anger, the improvement. Come out and say, listen, we need to be better. Like the refs need to be better. Like if they're costing us a game, get into them, right? Like here's the thing: how often? I will say that about Cal, but how often does Cal yell at the refs the whole game? And actually, how often does he yell but doesn't get technical, right? Yeah, because he's earned that type of respect. Where they know he's going to get into them.
Well, and you think back to the Arkansas game a couple of years ago when he gets teed up, thrown out
of
the game.
And then we come back.
And we come back. The response to the players,
right?
When you see that as your leader.
Especially in a game like that where Alabama was clearly favored and we played really good. Mm-hmm. They were a better team than we are. So in that type of game where you're probably going to lose, like especially when it kind of got a little bit separation, like 10 or 12, why not get to show your guys that you feel like they've been defeated in that game. Yeah. So like I do want to see that. I do want to see that side from him. Obviously, I know he's a really nice guy. He's a really positive guy, and that's great in a lot of ways. It really is. But he does going to have to bring that side, especially in the SEC. As physical as it is, you're going to have to take up for your players.
Well, I mean, you think of just when I think of the top 3 coaches in the SEC, and you think of Bruce Pearl, who is he's positive, but he is a fiery son of a buck. And then you got Nate Oates, who's a great coach and very positive, but he's a fiery son of a. I mean, they're fiery, and that's what we want to see out of our head coach.
And I will say, granted, I think he's kind of whiny, but someone like Dan Hurley, he really lays into the refs, and I think some of us gone a little too far at times.
Yeah.
But he's also back-to-back national champion, so it's hard to argue against someone like that, right?
Yeah. Interesting stat here, too. right before the half, Bama went on a 29-10 run.
Yeah.
That's a
I think we
big run.
I think we had scored 20 points like the first 5 minutes or something, and then
And
we scored
20 points.
15. You know,
20 points the last 15 minutes.
15. Yeah. Yeah.
But I will say, if you look at the stats, it's kind of what we've been talking about. It's another game. We shot 42%. When we talk about that 40 to 43% range, can we win those games when we shoot like that?
They shot 52.5 from the
And
field.
they shot 52.5%. Like, we didn't shoot. I think we shot under 40% from the three.
We did.
Yeah, you know, and
30,
but I think they did too, didn't they? What they shot?
Yeah, they shot just better than us, 35.5.
Right.
So 1%
So
better.
I mean, it's one of those questions. If we're not shooting close to 50%, or can we win these games? 42 and 43% is not bad from the field goal. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's not terrible. But
I think if we don't get Butler back healthy, we're gonna have to find something different defensively. We can't guard these teams in the SEC tournament and then marching man to man. Like, Travis Perry guarding other teams' point guards, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You know, like Mark Sears dropped 30, and I think we all expected him to go for 25 or 30 with Travis Perry guarding. You know, like looking at plus minuses, Travis Perry was minus 18, and it's defensively.
What was Colin Chandler, real quick?
Colin Chandler was plus 7.
Huh.
Yeah,
that's what I was wondering, because
I'll
give him a little bit of credit. Yeah,
he made a couple of silly mistakes there at the beginning. Colin Chandler made a couple of silly mistakes, but he did come, and I think he doesn't handle the ball as well as Perry does, but he does bring
like he has a left hand a lot to me.
More athleticism.
But he does bring more athleticism, more height, and I think he's more of a threat to scoring in the paint, because once Perry gets down there, it's really hard for him to get a shot off. Something interesting though, Mason, you had mentioned at the SEC tournament, Kentucky. We were in that 8th spot, now we dropped down to the 9th spot. We are behind Mississippi State now. So
I know, but a lot of teams that we needed to lose over the weekend lost as well. You know, like Mississippi State lost, Ole Miss lost. Who else lost? There was teams that are like right there above us that all lost over the weekend.
Missouri, but I mean they're still pretty good ahead of us. But
But several teams lost right there, you know, around where we're at, that could kind of help us maybe get back into getting that first round bye. That scares me too, with us not being healthy, and then, you know, if they come back and them having to play 4 games in 4 days, and, you know, going into the tournament, it may be best for us to just lose that first game.
I'll be very interested to see if Robinson or Butler comes back Wednesday night, because it becomes a very important game.
Yeah.
Very important.
I mean, you're talking about that extra game of having your legs and just enjoy something. Before we move on to the next one, though, I want to hear y'all's thoughts on. I was talking to somebody today about it. Something that is just so concerning for me. You know, I know that we don't have all of our guys, but there's going to come a point where if we don't have our guys, talk about continuity. Like, we're not. If we just expect them just to come. We're talking about guys, great that we're going to have our starters, but they're not going to be in game shape. They're not going to be in the flow of how we've been playing. And our lineup, I mean, like, that's the one thing I'm still worried about. Even if we do get our starters back, I'm just worried about that, because, you know, you talk about teams who have played with each other all year. We ain't played with our whole team all year.
Since January.
Yeah,
beginning of January almost.
Right, I agree. I mean, thing worries me. You think the few games Butler came back, he wasn't much of a scoring threat, right? He got to where he was a pretty decent shooter, and he wasn't much of a scoring threat. I mean, and then you talk about Jackson Robinson. It's his right wrist, and how good of a shooter he is. Like, how much is that going to bother him even when he comes back?
Yep.
Right, because even when he gets to the point he can maybe handle the pain, you can't tell me that every time he's not shooting, it's probably going to be there. And does it affect the shot even just a little bit?
And you know, it's going to be in the back of both their minds too while they're out there playing.
Right, Butler's, I mean, they talk about Butler's a contact injury away from being done. So, I mean.
And the way that he plays,
right,
that's all he does is contact. He's
I'm telling you, from what I heard, he needs surgery, and he's just trying to, you know, play through it. So, I mean, he takes one hit in the SEC or NCAA tournament. I think we just have to prepare to be without him. You know, I haven't heard much on Robinson, but Butler worries me just because his could be injured so easily again, especially with the way he plays, like you were talking about, Dylan.
Yeah. It's worrisome, but I hope Wednesday, like you all said, is a big game. Yeah, got to battle through. All right, guys, there is nothing better than on a long road trip, going to the gas station and just getting your favorite snack. So what we've done is we've got our top 5 best snacks. And if you're listening to this clip, do not go anywhere. Stay with us because after this, it's going to get good. Even though it's good right now, it's going to get really good. But we're going to take a little break from the sports talk. So let's real quick. Let's go into our top 5 best gas station snacks. Bulldog, lead us off.
All right.
Starting at 5.
My number 1, or number 5?
Yeah, let's go 5 down.
Okay. My number 5 is like trail mix. Some type of trail mix, got like pretzels and different things in it. Peanuts, whatever else. That's on number 5. Number 4, sweet tart ropes. I like the ropes.
Those are good.
I like the cherry flavored. Oh man, unreal. They're great. And then my next is just a simple Snickers bar. And if I'm needing something like that, my number 2, Nerd Clusters. They have become, they rose up the ranks. I didn't even think nothing about them. And then all of a sudden, the last 3 months, they've been just,
They hit the spot.
Absolutely. And then my number 1 has always been peanut M&Ms. Man, I don't know. I guess they're just easy to eat while you're driving.
Yeah.
And they're a quick snack, easy. You don't have to worry about making a mess with them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've always been, when I go on a road trip, it's usually get some type of drink and a peanut M&M.
Yeah.
And that's my go-to.
Can't go wrong with those. The peanut butter M&Ms. I mean, that's classic.
Never had them. Oh my goodness.
What? I can't. Oh yeah, that is right. Mason is allergic to peanut butter. I will never forget that in college. Whenever I put something. Yeah, that could be bad. All right, well, I'll go. So starting at 5. Colton, great minds think alike. Number 5 for me is Planters, the peanut butter chocolate trail mix. It's the sweet, the salty. You got a little bit of chocolate, but not too much chocolate. Man, sometimes it's just, that's what you need. Number 4 for me is the Mamba fruit chews. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
No,
Mamba, I do, but I've never had them.
Oh, they are so good. I will buy a pack and put them in my little stash in my closet, or not my closet, but in my, yeah, not Kobe Bryant Mamba, but yeah, you need to try them. But I'll put them in our little snack drawer that we have here at the house, and I will just eat them all night long. Then coming at number 3, watermelon Sour Patch Kids. And they got to be the watermelon. Can't be just regular Sour Patch Kids. They have to be the watermelon.
Okay.
So good. Number 2, the mini Starburst. But they have to be the Fave Reds, where it's just the pink
reds.
Yeah,
that one's cracked my top 5. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
If you put the yellow, I don't know how y'all feel about yellow Starburst, but everybody hates yellow and maybe, but I like they have to be the favorite. If it's the mix, I'm not as crazy about them because the pink Starbursts are the number 1 by far. And then number 1 for me, it's Nerds Gummy Clusters. I mean, they're just so good. It has so much red I-40, red, blue, yellow, all these dyes, but man, they are so good. I mean, I have to tell myself to portionize don't eat them all at once because before I look down, they're all gone. For me, if you all noticed, I don't have any chocolate in mine. I'm not a big chocolate guy. I never have been. I just, I like Snickers. Don't get me wrong. And sometimes Snickers is what I want. But as far as if I go in a gas station, I don't know that I've ever just got a Snickers bar or a Hershey's bar or something. Mine's all candy. I have a very big sweet tooth. So those are my 5. So Colton, ours is kind of similar. Mason, we got.
Right. I'm going to start out. I'm going to have a couple hot takes here. My first one. So it's not at 5. Yeah. It's not a snack, but it's my go-to. Anytime I go on a road trip, kind of an early road trip, a gas station coffee. That's going to be a hot take. All right. But a gas station coffee, a little sugar.
I'm not mad about that.
I got some creamer. It wakes me up, kind of, I know it's going to clear me out in a couple hours. It gets me ready
at the golf course.
It gets me ready for wherever I'm going, get to eat some good food. And then number 4, it's a breakfast sandwich from the gas station. Gas station breakfast sandwich is
Hey,
up
listen,
there for
for
me.
me,
I'd almost prefer
5-star
that.
breakfast to me is one of the best breakfasts.
See? So
all
those
we
are
can
like my
afford.
2 early morning gas station go-tos. After that, my number 3rd is going to be like some type of mix. I really like the munchies. I don't know if you've ever had that. It's got like Doritos and
Oh yeah, I about
Cheetos
to
and
put those on there,
pretzels
but I
and
had to go with the
yeah,
trail mix.
munchies. Number 2, sour Skittles. I really like sour candy.
Yeah.
So sour Skittles, that's kind of my go-to. And then number 1 for me, beef jerky. I always love to grab some beef jerky when I'm in there. Little snacks kind of hold me over. Depends on what kind of beef jerky you get, what kind they have.
Are you talking about like the sticks, or are we talking about like the actual
No, I'm
bag
talking
of
about
beef
the
jerky? Okay.
bags. The bags, not the
When
Slim
y'all,
Jims, the
when
bags.
y'all was younger, one thing that I used to do, I would, when I was in elementary school and even in middle school, y'all know those little like
Beef jerky
the beef
chew.
jerky chew, and
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
put it right there, and I'd be like,
Oh,
man,
yeah.
I'm a cool dude.
Same
I'd
way
be
with
sitting there,
same way with the big league chewing gum.
yeah,
Right over the like you were.
and my parents were like, "What do you?" And there for a little bit, I was on the kick of it. I was like, I would get them and take it to school, and I'd be trying to do the tobacco flip and everything. And I was like, this probably ain't a good look, but it is so good. But hey, beef jerky, I think for me, that's more of an on course, like on the golf course. I would love beef jerky, but just going on the road, I've never got beef jerky.
I do it all the time.
I also could have put sunflower seeds on there too.
Oh, yeah.
I love me some sunflower seeds. But just let us know, guys, who had the best top 5 of gas station snacks. All right, guys, that is it for that. Let's get into a topic that a lot of people have been wanting us to talk about. And what we're going to do is, I don't really know what to title this, but we're just going to call it Cal Hate / Pope, I guess. Because we got 2 guys in here, Colton, who's going to explain himself, Mason going to explain himself. I'm going to chip in here and there just because I'm I'm on the bridge. I'm not more so on the other side, whereas I feel like Colton and Mason are. But before I talk anymore, Colton wants to share a little bit of thoughts with you all for the audience, kind of just to lay out the foundations. So Colton, let's have a great debate here. Let's get mad at each other, but let's stay calm, guys. We're all friends. Room 302. All right. But let's have a good debate here. Colton, take it away.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify before we actually get into this that I am Kentucky through and through, bleed blue. I love Mark Pope. I love what he's done so far with it. I love the type of coach that he is. I'm excited for what he can do for the program in the future. I love the positivity. I think overall, he's just a great guy, which is what, him going up to that guy in the wheelchair after the game. Like, those are the type of things that I love most about people, and he seems like one of those. So when we get into this debate, I'm going to be arguing more against the hate that Cal got the last few years and still continues to get a lot of times.
Oh, he's still getting it.
And so it's not necessarily,
yeah.
so I don't want anyone to take this as if like I'm against Hope or UK, anything like that. I love UK. I love Pope. He's our coach, and go Cats through and through 100%. So when I argue, I'll just be essentially arguing that I was a Cal fan and why my appreciation for Cal is the way it is. With that being said, I'm going to let Mason be the one to start this with some things he doesn't agree for Cal. So,
well, and hold on, Mason, before we get to you, because I'm ready for you to go off. But hold on just a second. What we're doing though, guys, is Cal was our coach, and I would say over the past 4 years, or his last 4 years, there's just been a lot of hatred toward Cal. And up to that point, though, I don't know that, everybody, I guess they were on their honeymoon phase of Cal. But up in these last 4 years until his fire, which also Colton agreed upon, it was time for him. It was just time for us to depart ways. But Mason took the other side and I wouldn't even say liked Cal for quite a while. So Mason, take it.
First off, Don't let Colton lie to you. He has an Arkansas shirt on under that pullover there. No, but all in all, kind of like Colton said, like Cal's first 7, 8 years, unprecedented, right? We may never see anything like that again, okay, in the history of college basketball. I mean, it was unreal what he did, all right? But these last 5, 6 years, all this hate is warranted, okay? He's at the mecca of college basketball, okay? And I'm going to go through and just give y'all some numbers here real quick, okay, about what he's done since the 2018-2019 season, okay? So first thing I have here, how many first-round draft picks do you think Coach Cal's had since he's been at Kentucky?
35.
32.
37 is the number that I found. And it may be a little bit less, it may be a little bit more, but it's around that 35 to 40 range, okay? So my first complaint with Coach Cal is you have all this talent, you have one national championship to show for it, okay? One. Since the 2018-2019 season, do you know how many NCAA tournament wins he has? One. Okay? Since the 2019 season, he has a 66.8% winning percentage. Okay? Since Pope has been at BYU in 2019, and counting so far this year, he has an overall winning percentage of 67.3%, higher than Cal since 2018-2019.
Okay, now hold on. So I'm gonna stop you though, real quick, because I got two
Please,
things. I know Colton. I know Colton's gonna say the same
Go
thing.
ahead.
And like
Go
I said,
ahead.
I'm not. I'm kind of in the middle here. First off, with Cal winning only one national championship, winning a national championship's hard, especially in college basketball, because you have,
I agree.
You have one chance, and if you go and you look at the great coaches, Mike, however you say his last name, for Duke, Mike Krzyzewski, or however you want to say it. How many did he win? Okay, and but I mean, like
more than one.
I know, but it's
we'll
hard.
I got all that ready. Get ready.
And then also though, I want to take up for a little bit on Colton's side right here. You know, BYU is a little bit different league than the SEC.
Okay,
so we're talking about winning percentages.
Here's another one. Since 2019, Coach Cal's record against top 25 teams: 2020 and 2021, 1-5; 2021 and 2022, 2-5. 2022 and 2023, 2-4. 2023 and 2024, 5-2. This brings his overall record to 10-16 against top 25 teams since 2019. Okay, and you talked a little bit earlier about Bama's wearing this new blue blood thing. We haven't done anything since 2019. We haven't done nothing. They've been better than us since then. We haven't played good against top 25 teams. We haven't done anything in the SEC tournament. We haven't done anything in the NCAA tournament. So again, my hate towards Cal is not for his first 7 to 8 years. My hate towards Cal is his last 5 to 6 years at UK. Okay, he brings in these freshmen every single year. We've talked about this before too. The game of college basketball has shifted. Right? I don't know if y'all saw what Rick Pitino said over the weekend. Okay, he said that the game of college basketball is shifting, and he is no longer really recruiting high school recruits, right?
Yeah.
You can't win with freshmen anymore. I think the last time that somebody won with freshmen, mainly freshmen, was back in 2015, when Duke won it when we should have won it. And I still blame that loss on Cal that year.
Why do you blame Cal on that year?
Because so I was at that game. All right. I was at it in 2012 when we won the national championship. And I was there again in 2015 when we lost to Wisconsin. And my biggest complaint with Cal that year is, and I know the Harrison twins, they did a lot for us. They took us on some deep runs. But they were playing so bad that game. And you have Devin Booker on the bench. You have Tyler Ulis, who is a better point guard, with a better point guard at UK than Andrew Harrison was. You have Devin Booker, who's an NBA All-Star, one of the best shooting guards in the league, over there on the bench. And he comes in after the game talking about, I owed it to the Harrison twins, yada, yada, yada. That is BS. We are here to win a college basketball game. You don't owe it to nobody. You are here to win. And that drove me insane for 5 years, probably. I'm still not over it. I'll probably never get over it, because we had the best basketball team ever assembled. And what?
Did he not kind of do the same thing last year, too, with Reed Shepherd?
Exactly.
Didn't even start his...
Hold on.
Yeah.
Listen, Reed and I don't get into that one. Reed and Rob were averaging over 30 minutes a game. That was essentially starting. I mean, if you're averaging over 30 minutes, he's averaging. They average more than our current starters are right now.
he refused to play our best lineup all season long. He would not play Reed Shepard, Rod Dillingham, and Antonio Reese together. He wouldn't do it because he just go.
Listen,
why wouldn't he? Why?
Those
were
here's
our
my
best
thing.
3 players on the team last year.
Listen, I never heard about a lineup complaint when we went on the road and beat Tennessee. I never hear about the lineup complaint when we went on the road and beat Auburn. We beat North Carolina last year. All these teams, I never hear about the lineup complaint when Reed and Rob were playing 30
Everybody
plus
was talking about it all season. They should have been starting with Reeves.
I just don't understand it. Like, here's something: is something was obviously working for you to get a 3 seed, and these guys to be as good as they were. So maybe Reed, I will say this: Reed started first game he started UNC Wilmington. We got beat. He looked terrible. Maybe he was a better bench player. You don't know
he
that.
was.
But Cal, you know what I'm saying? I would trust the guys that seen him every day compared to the fans.
Maybe he was, but my biggest complaint last year was he would refuse to play that best lineup. They averaged the least amount of minutes together than any other lineup he played all season last season. And I don't have the stat with me right now, but they averaged him, Dilly, and Reeves. They averaged the least amount of minutes out of any other lineup in the entire season last year. And that drives me insane. Those are your 3 best players on the team, and you refuse to play them together. I don't know. I don't get some of Cal's things, and I think this comes down to, like, so let's just take a look at this year, for example. Okay.
Oh, hold on. Before you get into it,
I just have a question.
Okay. I was gonna let Cole. He's been good about this. I'm waiting for Cole's
go
fire.
Ahead, Cole. Go ahead.
No. Ask your question first, and then we'll get into it.
Okay. Who has the more talented roster?
This year?
Arkansas or
This
Kentucky?
year?
Yeah.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Who has the more talented roster, Arkansas or Kentucky?
Like athletes?
I was going to say it depends because I think Arkansas is more athletic, but I would say we're more talented as shooters and experience.
Okay. As shooters, we have better shooters, yes, but who has more talent? Let's just go off recruiting rankings and transfer rankings. Who has more talent coming into this season? Who had it?
Arkansas.
Okay. What's their record?
They beat us.
Okay, they beat us. What's their record, Colton? They're on the bubble.
Okay, let me ask you this though. I will say this, and this is what I look is like. We beat Duke, correct? Big win, great win.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think if we play Duke 10 times, we win the majority of the games?
No.
And what I'm saying is that's a great win, but I don't think we're more talented than Duke. I don't think we're more talented than a lot of these teams. I think we've found a way to win, which is great. I think it's a good coaching job, props to Pope, all the above. But at the same time, I mean, I also, do you look, let me ask you, do you look at the Kentucky team right now and do you sit there and think this is a national championship team?
Right now?
Right. Even when we're healthy, I'll just be honest with you. Do you sit there and think we are a top 5 team in the country?
I don't know that we're a top 5 team in the country.
I don't
think we can beat any team in the country.
That's college basketball. Absolutely. Anyone can. But what I'm saying is, do you look at that team and be like, we're the best team in the country?
No, because of our defensive flaws.
Right. There's not many teams that Cal had in 15 years that went at their best that you looked at and was like, there's a team better out there than we are. Right? There's just not.
That proves my point even more.
But here's my thing is, so we essentially have to, I would rather feel like we definitely had a team that had the capability at their best to be the very best team than the hope that we made some Cinderella run every year. Right? I mean, that's essentially what we're banking on this year, right? Is to make a Cinderella run.
Okay. But Pope had 1 month to put this roster together.
Hey, listen, come on. I'll get into that too. Mark Pope hired April 12th, 2024. John Calipari hired April 1st, 2009. Kentucky coming off of a 3 seed. Kentucky, for when Pope took over. Kentucky coming off missing the tournament for the first time in 17 years when John Calipari takes over. Mm-hmm. John Calipari goes to the Elite 8.
Yeah, because look who he brought with him.
That's props to him, though. Where's Pope's guys?
And that gets into it again. Cal's a recruiter. He's not a coach. He can't coach his way out of a wet paper bag. I hate to say that.
That's another.
If you have a team that's equal talent, they're the exact same people. Who do you want coaching your team? Coach Pope or Coach Cal? Who do you trust to make adjustments middle of the game? Who do you trust to go out there and run sets? Who do you trust?
Right now,
who's a better
John Calipari?
Get out of here.
Listen, I don't know how you can look at Pope's body
Get
of work.
out of
So,
here.
listen, how do you even put him in the same category? What has Pope's never won a tournament game? How do you even put him in the same category as any of these
I
goes?
can watch basketball and what he's coached so far this year and tell you that he's miles ahead of Coach Calipari when it comes to X's and O's and what he does on the court.
And then
Coach
what
Cal's a
happened?
recruiter,
And
point blank, period.
And then what happened in the Kentucky-Arkansas game?
Play the game of their life, Colton.
Nope.
If
what
we
happened?
play them, if we play them 10 times, how many times we beat them? They won't play like that again. 7, 8.
Listen, no, we are not beating them 8 times.
Stop.
Do you really think we're that much better than Arkansas?
Let me get a little break. Let me a little break. Okay.
Yes.
Let me go. Let me talk before I send it to Colton. So I think that we all can agree that John Calipari deservingly received some hate that he deserved, a little of it. Okay. I wouldn't say all of it, but I do say a little of it. Okay. And the reason why is because of his performance the past 5 years. And Mason, you have gone on the record many times, like you just finished stating, that you think that Coach Cal could not coach anymore. Like the game had surpassed him. Okay. And then that is something that Colton has kind of argued a lot, that not necessarily that the game has surpassed him miles and miles, that he can't coach, because obviously he still can coach. But you have stated, Colton, many times before that, there was just a lot of tension between Kentucky and Cal, and that's really ultimately what led to the breakup of Cal and Pope. But I think what a lot of people are saying is that Cal brought this on himself, and it was all Cal. Talk a little bit about that and get in.
Look, I was in agreement that there was time for a change. I did not know what that change was. I did not agree in firing Cal, which we didn't end up firing, but a lot of people were calling for him to be fired. Right there, like, you got to fire. My biggest thought there was, if you decide to fire a Hall of Fame coach like a Calipari, then you have to absolutely ensure that the next guy you bring in brings you a national championship. If he doesn't bring us a national championship, you made the worst mistake in the history of, and that's the truth. So I wasn't against that. But what happened was, how the last few years they complained about some of Cal's offense, right? They're like, oh, our offense is stagnant. We're not scoring enough. Cal decides to bring in that guy from the Utah Jazz, I can't think of his name, to be essentially an offensive coordinator. Last year, we averaged over 90 points a game and is number 1 in the country in 3-point percentage. Right? A Cal team, everyone was like, oh, he can't coach offense. He decides to do it. And in my thought, there should have been another change, right? Okay, do we need to bring in another, like a younger, more open mind that's willing to help Cal do more zone defense or more doing like that, right? Some type of change like that. Does Cal need to be like, okay, I've got to go away from this 5, 6, 7 freshmen. Let's get 3 freshmen and go after a lot of older guys. That type of change need to be made. Obviously, the tension the last few years, right? I mean, people wanted him gone. They lost confidence in him. And I will agree. I mean, it wasn't up to the standard the last few years. No one's disagreeing with that. You can't have first round losses. But as a whole, Cal's had 1 win in the NCAA tournament in the last, 6 years?
Yeah, but
right?
I also
will
say that 2019 or the 2020 year, he had a good chance.
I'll get into that. Listen, we won 7. We went to 7 Elite Eights in his first 10 years. The 11th and the 11th year was a year that I think we had a team to go to Elite Eight again. Right? Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickly, Ashton Higgins. Right? Then you had the COVID year. We didn't make the tournament. Duke didn't make the tournament. North Carolina didn't make the tournament. Kansas didn't make the tournament. All Blue Bloods didn't even make the NCAA tournament that year. To me, that's a wash. Right? It's COVID happened. You didn't have any fans in the stands. Rep Arena couldn't be fit. Nothing happened. Right? And you think about all those meetings that Cal would have, they couldn't do any of those things, right? So then, essentially, you had the last 4 years. 3 years, really. I mean, you had a year you were a 2 seed, got beat. You won as a 6 seed, lost as a 3 seed. Here's another is that Duke, 2012, 2 seed, got beat first round. 2014, 3 seed, got beat first round. Won a national championship in 2015. I'm just saying, Coach K went through the same thing, right? Lost as a 2 seed and the 3 seed 2 out of 3 years. Won a national championship. Coach K won 5 national championships in 42 years. that's averaging 1 out of every 8.5 years. Calipari, so that's really 2 in 17 years. If Cal had won 1 in the next 3 years, he'd have been on the same pace as what many consider the greatest coach of all time.
That's a good point.
And look, Bill Self, 2 championships in 23 years at Kansas. Tom Izzo, 1 championship in 20. Right? I mean, outside of your like Dan Hurley or your
Villanova.
Yeah, Villanova,
Right.
Jay Wright. Right? Like you just don't see it happening, right? UConn's won 4 championships, but with 3 different coaches. Right? So it's not necessarily coach. So what, like my whole point is that Cal underachieved in multiple ways. I'm not disagreeing with those statements. I don't like the statements of, look at all the talent he had. That talent is not guaranteed to be here without Cal. Like, as we're seeing right now, Pope has missed out on a lot of the top recruits so far.
He
right?
has.
And he has. So all those arguments, they'd come here because it's Kentucky. No, right now they're not. I mean,
listen, he got into the game late with these guys too. Listen, they've been recruiting them since they were freshmen in high school. He's gonna hit through. We're gonna get some top recruits here in the next 3 years or so. I guarantee it. They're gonna come to Kentucky because
right. But what I'm saying, all that is to be seen. But also another thing, and I was wrong when I said this. I think I made a statement that like each of our last couple of coaches had won within the first 3 years. Patino didn't actually win. He took over in '89. He won. He went to a Final Four in his 3rd year, but he actually won a national championship in his like 6th year or something like that. But then Tubby Smith obviously won it the first year. You can say with Patino's team, however you want to really take that.
Yeah.
Cal won it on his 3rd year. Right? That's the standard, though. And what I'm afraid is that people have let recency bias over the last 4 years, 5 years of what we've done, that if we win one tournament this year and then we get beat the second round, they're going to be like, oh, look, we finally got a coach that can win a tournament game. Did you know Cal hasn't won one in 6 years and still has the most NCAA tournament wins since the time he took over at Kentucky?
yes, but here's my question. How long do you give him, Colton? We're Kentucky. Cal, how long did you want us to give him?
I'm not, like I said, Nathan, I said that I thought there was time for a change. But what I'm saying though is it's the ones that the whole argument was going to be essentially the hatred that Cal got. Like you can sit there and be like me where I thought there was time for a change and be 100% appreciative of what went on instead of being like, Cal cost us this, Cal done this, Cal done that. He was awful. He can't coach no more. That's not true. Like he's still a very good coach.
I disagree. I don't think he is a good coach. I think he's a good recruiter.
So you don't think any game we've ever won had nothing to do with his coaching? It was only because we had a good player.
I didn't say that.
But
I just don't
that's
think
what you just said, that he recruited players and didn't coaching.
I do not think in college basketball right now, he's a great recruiter. But as far as like coaching a basketball team, making adjustments in game, making adjustments throughout the season, I don't think he's a top 20 coach in college basketball right now when it comes down to X's and O's and game planning and scheming. And I think a lot of that, his first 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years was the people he had around him. And I have that noted here as well. He lost Kenny Payne. And Kenny Payne didn't do nothing at Louisville, but he was great in his role at Kentucky. You can ask any of the players that went there. They always talk about Kenny Payne. I think Cal had people around him that kept him in check, that gave him ideas, that helped him create the system that he had. Let's see, Kenny Payne left, John Robick left, Orlando Antigua left. All those guys leave, and that's when you start to see it going downhill. I think those were the main guys that Cal relied on for some of these offensive schemes, defensive schemes, all these different things. And over the last, like we said, 6 years, he hasn't done anything.
Well, let me give you all a break real quick because I want to chop in on this. So I think that I am in total. I agree with Colton that I think Cal can coach. I can't necessarily say all the way that Cal can't coach because I think
I'm not saying he can't coach.
Well, you
I
did.
just don't think
you did just say that.
did just
I
say
did
that.
just say that.
You said he's only a recruiter.
You did. You did just say he's only a recruiter. He can't coach.
He is. He can't coach anymore.
But I will say this too. I think no. I'm like I said, I'm in the middle. I still think though, I do believe, and Coach may not agree with all this, that Cal brought a lot of this on himself. And the reason why I say, because we're talking about the Cal hatred, one thing that it just drove me crazy with Cal is, and that's who Cal has always been, but it's kind of like Pope. We're getting kind of tired of just the Mr. Nice Guy. I was getting tired of Cal with the sarcasm. Like, after after the games, whenever he would never do any shows. When he would go to the press conferences, he would say some remarks that were just like, what are you doing? Like, stand up there, take this L, and talk to the media, because that is part of your job. And I think that's some of the things that was driving me crazy with Cal. And a lot of it, and he had done that all of his life. But I think the difference is, he started losing a lot of games, and there started being this disconnect from the fan base and Cal. And, Kentucky fans, we don't take that very well. All we have is Kentucky basketball. We don't have any other NBA teams or MLB. We don't have any of those national leagues. So that's all we have. Kentucky basketball is what we have here. And I think that was something that drove that hate. And I think that we all in agreement say it was time for a departure. Let's not take up too much more time. Mason, end your remarks. Colton, end your remarks on it.
Okay, so my final take here.
Yep.
Talking back to, listen, like I've said, Cal's first 10 years, great. But the hatred, the criticism that he's gotten over the last 6 years are completely deserved. Okay? How many times over the last 4 to 5 years have we been texting in our group talking about, my goodness, I cannot watch this for another minute? Dylan, how many times have you turned the game off in the last 5 years because he does the same crap over and over and over? It doesn't change anything. De'Aaron Fox, he went on a media outlet or an interview or something and said 9 times out of 10, when you're playing for Coach Cal, it's going to end in an ISO or a pick and roll. That's NBA basketball. That's not college basketball. You don't have the guys to do that at this level consistently. You don't have a team full of players who can just go get a bucket whenever they want it. And that was my biggest complaint with Cal over the last 4 to 5 years. And his record's shown it. I mean, like I said, he's 10-16 against top 25 teams since 2019. My biggest complaint with Cal, he didn't adapt to the game of college basketball. Okay, his first 10 years were great. He was getting the best players in college basketball. He was kind of running through it every year. We were going to an Elite 8 or Sweet 16 almost every single year. Okay, and that was awesome. That was kind of in our peak of watching Kentucky basketball. And then you start to see the game shift a little bit, right? You start to see, okay, maybe freshman's not the way to go anymore. Maybe you got to start getting some of these transfers, some of these grad transfers, different people in your system that can help you win basketball games. And, I mean, they're out of the top 10 teams in America right now, there are a total of 6 freshmen that are playing starter minutes. Auburn has 1, Duke has 3, Alabama has 1, and Texas Tech has 1. Okay? And I feel like Cal, he's very stubborn. Okay?
Yeah, I agree.
He's kind of set in his ways.
I agree.
And I think that's a lot of the reasons why we didn't see change over the last 4 or 5 years in his offensive philosophy, defensive philosophy, whatever it is. Okay, he's just kind of, you can't really, and I think some of those guys that I mentioned, Kenny Payne and John Robick, Orlando Antigua, would tell him, like, look, you got to do this. And he would listen to those guys. But now he didn't have those people around him, and he was just doing what he thought was best. And the game has changed. And yes, do I still think Cal is going to make a run here in a few years? Probably. But look at this season. If Cal was still here, we'd have probably the exact same team that Arkansas has. Maybe one more player. I think Jade Quaintance went to Arizona State, right? Dew went to Georgia. All right.
Other than that, let me send to Colton, okay? One final question.
Okay.
Let's say 4 years down the road, Mark Pope only gives us 1 win in the NCAA tournament. Would you still wish that you had John Calipari as your coach, Mason?
Okay. So is that question?
Hold
on though. Is that question saying you still want Pope, or you wish that you? Okay, that's I was about to say.
If he only has 1 NCAA tournament win in 4 years, then no, we got to find somebody else.
That's my biggest thing. Is look, I love Pope. I think he's done a great job of what he's done. I just think that the people who are, and obviously Pope won a national championship for us as a player. He bleeds blue in that way. Everyone's gonna love him for that reason. At the same time, this is Kentucky, and the standard is what Calipari set in those 10 years, right? Like that now is the standard. right? We may never see it again, but that's still the standard for Kentucky basketball.
Yeah.
And so Pope still has to reach that. Look, I love Pope. To me, my final marks.
Yeah, 1 minute and final marks.
I'm a Cal fan for multiple reasons, not just because of his coaching, but because of the things he's done while he was here. Obviously, he's won us a national championship while in my time when I really understood it, all the great moments. But at the same time, the things that when you hear the players talk about him, I mean, they love him. I mean, his players just truly love him because of how much he cares about them, their families, the much he cared about the state of Kentucky, even though he didn't have to. Right? He even made just a recent donation to their flood victims here, and he don't live here anymore. He don't coach here anymore.
I didn't know that.
He did. He made a $1 million donation to the flood victims. Right? That's the type of guy that I loved about Calipari because he was always about the other people. And I know people get mad because of his sarcasm. He seems like this and that, but that man truly cared. I mean, he would go and visit Joe B. Hall on his, you know what I'm saying, once a week, and he still Dickie V during the cancer treatments. All these things, like he's that type of guy. And some of the remarks that he got were uncalled for. You can sit there and have your opinions of the game passed him by. If all this happened, I'm on board with that. I completely agree with that. I thought it was time for a change. I'm happy with Mark Pope. But to sit there and make some of the things act like he's the worst coach in history, he should never be able to, like the bad guy, was not warranted for Calipari.
All right, same question for you, Colton. 4 years down the road, Pope only gives us one. Do you still wish you had Cal?
Yeah. If between him and Pope in 4 years, if he's only gave us one, yeah. Now, if he gave me, I think after 4 years, if he only gave us one, I'm looking for a new coach, though.
Yeah, no, I think we're all.
But
we all
between
agree
Pope and
that.
Cal, I mean, I think if that's the case, if you're talking about going into year 5 with Pope or wishing that we'd had Cal for the other 4, I would wish we'd had Cal probably.
So Colton is Cal can coach, Mason Cal can't coach. There we go. All right. Well, guys, and we're probably won't be talking about the Cal hate anymore, but we will eventually on later episodes get into some more stuff with that. But that was a good debate, guys. I hope the viewers enjoyed that. We can elaborate more on that as well if you all would want us to talk more about that. So let's go on to our next topic and the last topic of the night. So previously on our last episode, we talked about what's wrong with the All-Star Weekend, and we were going to do something. Well, I had an idea of possibly talking about the dream teams from back when Michael Jordan played with Bird and Magic and Barkley, and then this past another dream team that won a gold. But we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to get into another one. We're going to talk about the All-Star Weekend and the format of it. And there's been a lot of talk about this possibility of possibly having the United States versus the world as the Sunday All-Star Weekend. And just so people out there can understand, so what it would look like is you would just have your U.S. players playing against your world players. Some of the U.S. players, one of the pictures that we would talked about that had a list of the 5 starters would be Jalen Brunson, Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, KD, and then LeBron. And then you also, on the world side, would have SGA. Then you had Luka Doncic, Giannis, the Joker, and then Wembanyama. But also, I think it's very important for us to kind of talk about the U.S. reserves and the world reserves that would be on that, because I don't think it's a fair fight to just do those 5 against those 5. We could do that, but let's go ahead and talk about the U.S. reserves as well. So you're talking about not including Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard, Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Kyrie, and then if you want to put Joel Embiid on the U.S. since he did technically play on the U.S. team. And then you would have for the world reserves, you would have Josh Giddey, Jamal Murray, Franz Wagner, Pascal Siakam, with the dudes for the Jazz, I can hardly Laurie, Mark I don't know how you say, Mark again, Karl Anthony Towns, and Sabonis. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this, and I'm going to shift it to you all and get your all thoughts. So I think that if we are talking about a present day matchup, like if we're talking about right now, which would be next year for this All-Star format, I'm going to have to go with the world team on this one. And I just think that the world team right now, they are all in their primes. Like I know that Joker looks old and is a little old, but I mean, the guy's really not come to life. except for the past 5 years. I mean, you're talking about a 3-time NBA MVP. You got Wembanyama, who, although is hurt, we're going to count it as everybody's healthy, on the rise, probably the biggest upcoming star. Then you got SGA, who is just dominating
May
the
win
league. So if we're
MVP this year.
yeah, could have won it last year. I would have given it to him last year. But if we're talking about present day, right now, I'm going with the world. And now, if we're talking about the present day and we're going to do a 1 game, yes, I'm going with world. But if we're going to do a 7-game series present day, I'm going with the U.S. and I think that obviously it is just 1 game, so you can't listen. You cannot convince me in a world where Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant are on the same team. Talk about those guys in clutch moments, and I don't care who in the world. That's another topic for another time, saying, well, LeBron ain't clutch, whatnot. I can pull up all kinds of stats because they were all over the weekend because he missed a go-ahead 3. But anyways, that's a point for another conversation. But you cannot convince me that those 3 guys are not going to find a way to win. Now, if we're talking about back in their primes, I don't even think it's close. I am taking the U.S. hands down, 1 game, 7-game series, whatever you throw it at me. You're talking about KD and LeBron James, top 10 scorers of all time. You got the greatest shooter of all time. I think in KD, you have the greatest score. Not that he has the most points because LeBron, but I'm just talking about a 6'10" who can shoot it at any part of the court. He is literally, I think, the greatest scorer of all time. There's no way I'm taking the world over those guys. But if we're talking about just a 1-game series right now in present day, I'm going with the world. I think that the world just is they've got so many different looks now. You could say, though, well, if you're talking about a full game, though, talk about those reserves. The world really drops when you're talking about the reserves. In the U.S. reserves, you're placing one All-Star with another All-Star. I mean, what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and initially looking at the lineups, I was like, oh, it's got to be the world, right? But I think the reserves is a big play because I don't think the world has the defensive position at the guard position, right? I don't think they have
Jamal
enough.
Murray's not
I just SGA, but like Luka is not going to be able to guard a Tatum or a Anthony Edwards, right? Like those guys aren't going to be able to be like. I think the world would struggle defensively. However, the height and the advantage that the world has, like that. I mean, Luka, like the skill set of those type of guys, like Luka and the Joker, athleticism is not what they are built on. But so, like defensively, they would struggle, but offensively, I mean, they should be one of the most efficient offensive teams.
And it's good though you said guards because that's just guards because you got Wembanyama and Giannis down there
and Joker. I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, the guards, SGA, like Luka's going to have to guard the 2. No, he's not.
He's on an island,
right? Like he's going to be struggle, right? And Jamal Murray would have to come in for better defense than what Luka would. But after that, they just really fall off. I think the guards would. I don't think any one of them can handle Steph, like guard him, chase him around the whole game.
Yeah.
And so I personally, I think the more I think about it, I would actually take the USA. If you gave me 10 players on both sides, in a full game,
I like that.
I would take the USA.
Well, that was my biggest thing was the height. You got Wembanyama, you got Giannis, you got Joker. They should be able to almost score. Between those 3, it's going to be tough matchups for Team USA for those 3. But kind of like y'all said, on the other side, they've got some tough matchups as well at the guard position. I think it just really comes down to Team USA is hitting shots, right? Mm-hmm. If they're not, then they're really going to struggle. I could see them putting, somebody with length, Giannis or Wembanyama, just to try to contest Steph. Just kind of chase him, put some longer length on him to prevent him from getting some of those shots off. I don't know. I still think the reserves are the biggest thing, like we've talked about, right? The USA's reserves are pretty stacked. Like Dylan said, you're placing an all-star with another all-star world team. You're not necessarily doing that. I still think I'm going to go with the world team just because of their size. They're going to be hard to stop, really hard to stop on the offensive end just because of their size. And then I think their length could give Team USA some problems.
And I think another very important thing for people to understand is the reason why you would be doing this format is to bring a level of competitiveness back to the All-Star game. And that's something that you have nobody, and it seems like it's in every sport. You've never questioned the world whenever it comes to playing hard. And that's something that they have always been great at. That's why at the Olympics, it's so hard to beat teams now, not only because the level of talent has went up in Olympic from the world, but what has always been there and always will be there is the amount of pride that they have. And that's something I think that the world would have on the U.S. team. But, if you bring, and I'm just talking about just playing, but if you were to bring this format with the U.S. versus the world, then that's whenever, because going into this summer, I'm not trying to get into the Olympics, but I'm just trying to bring light into what this would mean for All-Star Weekend is, you had all this chirping going, well, the world is catching up. Well, the U.S. is like, no, we're here. And they went out and they won. So even though this world is catching up, basketball runs through the United States of America. And I think that would bring so much more viewership. I think that each team would bring pride and they would not lollygag. I think that the level of competitiveness would rise off the charts. I would hope so. I know that it would come from the world. I truly believe if the world would set the tone, and then the U.S. would take it to the mouth and say, okay, they're wanting to, let's start this up. And I think it would be great.
I think that's a good point, Dylan, about the Olympics, because, we're playing U.S. versus other countries, and we struggled some games in the Olympics. There were a couple games where we weren't sure if we were going to pull it out.
France, the last two games.
And they combine all those players from the world together, and that just kind of makes me reiterate that I'm taking the world. I mean, we struggled against some individual countries, let alone them putting everybody together on one team.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I do say. Colton, final thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm going to go with the USA just because like I said, America. I believe in them. I just think the guard play. I think the athleticism ultimately in a full game would hopefully take over. I think we would have mismatch problems on the defensive end. I think they'd be very efficient scoring. My hope is that we would just play at a fast enough pace to score more. And so that's my final thoughts on that.
All right, guys. Well, before we wrap it up for tonight, it's been a great episode. I've really enjoyed this one. So we had our merchandise. Mason, why don't you go ahead and show it up while I'm talking again? We have our hats that come in. Some of you all had put yourselves in a chance to win a free hat. We appreciate you all doing that. So right now, this is totally random. If you can see, I have the wheel, so you're just going to have to trust me on this as I'm clicking it. We're going to have 5 winners, so I am spinning the wheel right now for our first winner. I'm not going to put it up there every time. I'm just going to announce who the winner is. So for our first winner is going to be Mr. Treg Turner. Treg Turner, you are our first winner.
Congratulations.
All right, our next winner is going to be, and it is spinning right now, Mr. Dakota Jones.
Dakota, former Brescia, another Brescia alumni.
BU.
That's right.
All right, spinning the wheel. Just so people believe me, I'm showing my screen right now. Those who are just listening and not watching the audio, Mr. Cody Grant.
Cody Gant.
My bad.
Shout out UK Doctor of Physical Therapy Program, class 2022.
Cody Gant.
Man.
All right, so we got 3. We need 2 more. Our next winner is Mr. Trey Emmert. Trey Emmert.
Dog.
And then our last one, the last winner for tonight is going to be Mr. Daniel Steele.
Another Brescia alumni.
Another Brescia alumni.
There we go. All right, guys. So the winners for tonight's hat drawing is going to be Trey Turner, Dakota Jones, Cody Gant, Trey Emmert, and Daniel Steele. We appreciate you all. I said that so wrong. We appreciate you all for tuning in to this episode. I know it's went a little bit longer than usual, but we had a lot of great debates, and we appreciate y'all always listening, tuning in. Peace. That's a wrap for this episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, be on the lookout for our social media pages and be sure to follow them. We've got plenty more stories, insights, and conversations coming your way. And if you really loved it, make sure to share it with a friend. From the hills to the hollers, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep that Kentucky spirit strong.